Hi everyone, my name is Jovi Chan, and I'm Wildlife Conservation Manager for WWF Hong Kong. Mainly work on the illegal wildlife trade issues in the city, and I'm one of the team members of Counter Illegal Wildlife Trade Asia Pacific Hub in the WWF to work with the transport sector to disrupt illegal wildlife trade together. At our Asia Pacific Counter IWT Hub, we can't directly intercept wildlife smuggling, but we collaborate with industry players, governments, and experts to disrupt illegal wildlife trade. Our efforts focus on three main areas. First, disrupting transportation routes from origin to destination. Second, follow the money to identify key individuals in wildlife smuggling. Last but not least, combating wildlife crime on online marketplaces, where much of this trade occurs. By working together, we aim to make wildlife trafficking more difficult, enhance awareness, and strengthening the capacity to identify illicit wildlife products, addressing loopholes that traffickers exploit. Here's the content page for our training materials. We will cover an overview of legal and illegal wildlife trade, global regulations for specific species, and the links between illicit wildlife trade and the transport sector. Finally, we will show how Hanjin and each of you can take action to prevent illegal wildlife trade. Let's go into the details bit by bit. Welcome to our training section. In just about 15 minutes, you will learn about illegal wildlife trade and why the WWF Asia Pacific created the Counter Illegal Wildlife Trade Hub. We will cover how to spot suspicious smugglers and shipments, identify what threats to avoid transporting illegal wildlife products. As a leader in the transport sector, Hanjin can set an example by taking steps to combat this issue. We will share strategies and tips to help you avoid buying unlawful wildlife products. Ready? Let's get started. To start with, what is wildlife? When you think of it, do you picture elephants or Asian black bears? Look around and think of three items from wildlife. Maybe a timber desk, fish for lunch, or a notepad. We are connected to wildlife through food, fashion, furniture, and health products like ginseng. This connection makes wildlife trade complex, and we will explore that in this presentation. Wildlife trade involves buying, selling, and importing. Let's dive in. The legal wildlife trade is a huge business, valued at around $320 billion a year. Most of this trade involves timber and fisheries. It plays an important role in supporting local livelihoods and promoting sustainable developments. By practicing responsible trade, we can help communities benefit from nature resources while also protecting the environment. For instance, safeguarding wildlife can boost ecotourism. On the flip side, illegal wildlife trade involves the exchange of wild animals and plant resources, and ranked as the fourth most profitable illegal trade worldwide, behind drugs, arms, and human trafficking. It's estimated to be worth up to $20 billion a year. But this figure is likely much higher. That's why we often call it a high-profit, low-risk business. Much of this trade operates hiddenly through global underground networks, run by organized criminal groups. Apart from the direct economic losses, illegal wildlife trade has severe consequences for the environment and contributes to biodiversity loss. I would like to show you a video to give you a short overview of its impacts.
There's a huge global issue involving dangerous international networks that poses a threat to the conservation of iconic species. But you may have never heard of it. It's the illegal trade of wildlife, and it's getting worse every year. The trade has huge implications for biodiversity and public health. It also undermines national security, good governance, the rule of law, and sustainable development. Take pangolins, the most trafficked mammal in the world. They're regularly taken from their natural habitats in Africa and Asia to meet the demand for their meat and distinctive scales. Just as the market for products like rhino horn, elephant ivory, and tiger parts has pushed those species towards extinction, this illegal wildlife trade severely threatens the survival of pangolin species. Organized criminal syndicates exploit global transport and financial systems to traffic wildlife, just as they do drugs and arms. These criminals often operate with impunity, making wildlife trade a low-risk, high-profit enterprise. We're tackling this huge problem by working with government authorities, e-commerce platforms, the shipping and airline industries, and other like-minded NGOs to disrupt trafficking routes. This makes the transport of illegal wildlife more difficult and costly. We've also entered groundbreaking partnerships with global financial institutions to raise awareness of the illicit trade, and we're helping major shipping companies develop systems and protocols to proactively respond to suspicious cargo. We have developed innovative solutions, like technology that rapidly screens shipping documentation, a machine learning system that can identify potential sales of illegal wildlife products online, and a surveillance system that monitors the factors for zoonotic disease emergence. By promoting zero-tolerance policies to wildlife trafficking, encouraging cross-border cooperation, funding critical research, mobilizing citizen science initiatives, and raising public awareness about the issue of illegal trade, we can make a difference. No pangolin should be stolen from its natural habitat, and nor should any other creature. Find out what we're doing to combat this global issue and how you can be part of the change by visiting our website.
In the video, it mentioned that illegal wildlife trade pushes endangered species closer to extinction, putting our ecosystems at risk. It also depletes the natural resources, which can have lasting effects on local communities and wildlife habitats. Lastly, illegal wildlife trade can introduce harmful animals and plants into new environments, disrupting local ecosystems and further flattening native species. Let's take sharks as an example. Sharks and whales are currently in crisis, with around 100 million sharks killed each year for their fins, meats, and liver oil. Larger species are especially vulnerable to this issue. In fact, 36% of identified shark and whale species are now threatened with extinction. Even though many countries and territories have banned shark finning, the seizure of shark fins remains a significant problem. Many people think all sharks are aggressive and pose a threat to humans, but that's a big misconception. Only a few species are known to be dangerous, and shark attacks are extremely rare. This misunderstanding often comes from movies and media that portray sharks as villains. Sharks actually play a crucial role in keeping marine ecosystem balance by controlling other species populations. As of November 2023, about 90% of the global trade in sharks is now regulated by international trade laws. If you are handling a shark fin shipment, be sure to ask your clients if the commodities are regulated. We'll cover these regulations later. Illegal wildlife trade doesn't just harm animals and plant species. It also has a big impact on rural communities that rely on their natural environments. Plus, it negatively affects the nature-based tourism industry, which means fewer visitors. Coastal communities that depend on seafood for their livelihoods are hit hard. In the end, IWT undermines efforts to achieve sustainable development goals, making it harder to promote sustainability and community well-being. Another major fact is the spread of zoonotic disease. COVID-19 revealed that over 75% of emerging infectious disease in humans come from animals, like HIV and SARS. On the bright side, there's now greater public awareness of the link between human, animal, and environmental health, a concept called One Health. Some diseases like bird flu, H5N1, are linked to wildlife trade and consumption. Since 1996, it has killed over 300 million birds and is increasingly crossing into other species. By 2024, there were other 25 reported bird flu cases in Korea, leading to the killing of thousands of chickens and ducks. Without proper health checks, the illegal wildlife trade could easily trigger another zoonotic disease outbreak. In the image of this slide, you can see a disturbing visual representation of the interconnections between humans, animals, and the environments. It highlights how wildlife trade can lead to the transmission of diseases. When wildlife trade is unregulated or illegal, it creates significant risk, not only human at risk, but the native species and livelihood are affected as well. This can lead to harmful outbreaks, as we've seen the ramifications of those zoonotic diseases like SARS, MERS, bird flu, and COVID-19. By understanding the dangers associated with illegal wildlife trade, we can better protect public health and wildlife alike. Addressing this issue is crucial for preventing the spread of this dangerous disease. Further, the IWT promotes disorder and corruption. It is estimated that around 1,000 wildlife rangers have lost their lives while performing their duties throughout the last 10 years. The IWT enriches criminal syndicates and endangers both domestic and global security. The IWT is a cross-border organized crime, from wildlife origin to the markets. Even worse, illegal wildlife trade often links to serious crimes like drug trafficking and money laundering. For instance, in South Africa, the illegal trade in abalone frequently involves bartering for drugs. The risk for smuggling wildlife products often overlap with those for other illegal goods. On the right, you will see a Malaysian known as the Godfather. He tried to smuggle over 200 kilograms of rhino horns from Africa. The U.S. court documents show he is part of the transnational network involved in large-scale rhino horn smuggling, using countries like Thailand as hubs for selling to foreign buyers. This highlights the complex and interconnected nature of these crimes. Let's talk about rosewood, an endangered species traditionally used for high-quality furniture. It's the world's most trafficked endangered species by value, and this illegal trade threatens its survival while causing huge economic losses. Illegal logging in Africa costs countries up to $17 billion. A 2022 analysis revealed that over 3 million tons of rosewood were illegally traded from West Africa to China, equivalent to nearly 13,000 Airbus A330-220, or over 92,000 20-foot containers. Many species are at risk because of illegal trade, which is why the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora, or called CITES, is so important. This international agreement ensures that the trade in wild animals and plants doesn't threaten their survival. CITES was established in the early 1960s, when the global communities recognized the urgent need for regulations to protect endangered species from wildlife trade pressures. It officially came into force on the 1st of July 1975. Today, there are over 180 signatories, showing a strong global commitment to protecting endangered wildlife and promoting sustainable trade practices. The CITES appendix are vital for wildlife conservation and regulating international trade. Appendix 1 includes species threatened with extinction, like tiger and giant pandas, which cannot be traded internationally apart from some exceptional cases. Appendix 2 covers species at risk without regulations, such as seahorses and many orchids, with trade controlled through permits to ensure sustainability. Appendix 3 consists of species protected at least in one country, requesting help from other CITES parties for trade control, like certain corals and plants. This categories help protect vulnerable species worldwide. As of 23rd of February in 2023, nearly 41,000 species are listed in the CITES appendix, including about 6,600 animal species and over 34,000 plant species. This system helps ensure the trade remains sustainable and doesn't threaten this species' survival in the wild. Looking ahead, the upcoming CITES conference of the parties in November 2025 will be a key event. where various wildlife species will be discussed. Representatives will consider whether to add or remove certain species from the CITES appendix. This ongoing evaluation is crucial for CITES to effectively protect wildlife. In this slide, I want to highlight the Asia arowana, which is listed under CITES Appendix 1, meaning it's threatened with extinction due to illegal trade and habitat loss. In 2023, South Korea imported about 1,500 live Asian arowana, reflecting the demand in the aquarium trade. To comply with CITES regulations, only captive-bred individuals can be legally traded if they have proper documentations and are microchipped. This tracking ensures they come from legal and sustainable breeding operations. CITES Appendix 2 is vital for protecting species that are not currently endangered, but could become so without proper trade regulations. To trade that species, you need an export or re-export permit. And some places like Hong Kong may also require an import permit. In 2023, South Korea imported over 65,000 American alligator skins. Highlighting the demand for Appendix 2 products, a notable incident in January 2020 involved a shopper whose 19,000 Australian dollars alligator skin handbag was destroyed by Australian customs because she lacked the necessary CITES import permits. This highlights the importance of proper documentation to prevent illegal wildlife trade. As more species are regulated under CITES Appendix 2, I would like to share another example, orchids. Most orchid species are protected under CITES, either in Appendix 1 or 2. So when you receive a shipment request for orchids, it's essential to check if the species is listed in CITES. In 2023, South Korea imported over 7 million moth orchids, which are listed under CITES Appendix 2. This huge number shows how popular these plants are in the horticultural trade, but it also highlights the need for sustainable practices to ensure that trade doesn't flatten wild populations. CITES Appendix 3 includes species that are protected in at least one country and need international cooperation for conservation. To trade this species, you need an export permit, a certificate of origin, or a re-export certificate. In 2023, South Korea imported more than 100 ocelot reefer stingrays from Thailand and 30 from Taiwan. This highlights the need to monitor species trade that may not be globally threatened, but still require protection. This stingray, known for its unique patterns, is a prime example of a species that benefits from CITES protection. South Korea uses an electronic CITES permit system known as e-CITES. This digital platform streamlines the process of applying for and issuing CITES permits, making it easier for traders and authorities to manage and check wildlife trade. However, some jurisdictions are still using paper form that they may create a loophole for fake permits. There are some signs that you can look out for. For example, check the expiry dates of the permit. Export permits and re-export certificates have a maximum period of validity of 6 months. Import permits may have a maximum validity of 12 months. Authorized permits use the most current version of government and organizational logos. There are more signals on our website compendiums. Here's the link. This diagram represents the illegal wildlife trade trend, showing how wildlife products move from source countries to transit hubs and finally to consumer markets. It highlights the complexity of the illegal wildlife trade and shows how multiple actors and transport systems are involved across borders. To disrupt this trend, enforcement and intervention are needed at every stage: source, transit, and destination. Most trafficked wildlife comes from specific countries in Africa, so we need to pay close attention to transactions involving South Africa, Nigeria, Mozambique, Tanzania, Angola, and others. Every year, new illegal wildlife trade routes from Africa to Asia pop up.
but key transit hotspots remain the same, like Malaysia, Singapore, Hong Kong, Thailand, Vietnam, and the UAE. Some of these transit countries are also destinations for wildlife trade. The value of trafficked wildlife usually increases along the supply chain, peaking at the destination. So we should keep an eye on payment transactions involving China, Vietnam, and Hong Kong. Lawful transport service providers, including airlines, shipping companies, and forwarders, may be utilized by traffickers. This transport provides risks being linked to illegal wildlife trade activities. Reputational risk. Companies may be exposed to the reputational risk by media, public reports with announcement or seizures, and being associated with the transportation of illicit products. Second, legal risk. Shipping companies have previously been fined for failing to take inadequate steps to prevent the shipment of contraband goods. If found transporting protected, which would lead to prosecution for not taking action to ensure shipments does not contain illicit cargo. The economic, security, health, and safety risks have been covered in previous slides. Here, I won't spend much time to go through them again. This slide covers the methods used to transport wildlife products illegally, which is key to spotting and stopping illicit trade. First, human body. Wildlife products can be hidden on or inside individuals crossing borders, taking advantage of personal mobility. Luggage. Smugglers often use personal bags to conceal smaller items, counting on minimal custom checks. Wildlife products are packaged as regular parcels and shipped, making them hard to trace. Road or air cargo. Larger operations use trucks or air cargo to move large quantities, disguised as legal goods. Finally, containerized cargo. Shipping companies often carry massive amounts of wildlife products mixed with legal items to avoid suspicion. The type of wildlife being smuggled really affects how it's transported. For instance, wild ivory is often shipped by air cargo because of its size, shape, and strong smell. On the other hand, worked ivory is usually smuggled in checked luggage or carried by travelers, making use of personal bags. Interestingly, we are also seeing more ivory being sent through postal services. Handling scales pose another challenge. They are typically moved in large quantities and often hidden in air cargo or sea shipments. Similarly, certain marine species like giant seahorses and abalone are frequently smuggled in large volumes as well. Wildlife smuggling, especially through mail and courier services, is a method that doesn't get enough attention. The lack of scrutiny makes mail an appealing option for traffickers wanting to smuggle wildlife or wildlife products. Plus, seizures found in the mail are often less likely to be reported by the government authorities or covered by the media. This means the true scale of the problem can be hidden, making it harder to create effective countermeasures. The image here shows live snakes, spiders, and reptiles hidden in postal packages. Sometimes these animals were individually taped and stuffed into shocks, tightly secured with rubber bands to avoid detection. Sadly, some of these smuggled creatures didn't survive the journey. This visual shows the complex network behind wildlife smuggling, mapping the journey of animals from their origins to final destinations. It highlights the various players and the flow of money and goods in this illegal trade. The key components all start with online ads, where overseas traders place orders and fund domestic networks of coordinators, traders, poachers, and breeders. Coordinators then organize transportation through couriers who send animals overseas in parcels or personal bags. This illustrates the complex roles of different actors and how these illegal networks cross borders. Here are some key signs that may indicate wildlife smuggling through mail and courier service. Missing, misspelled, or incomplete paperwork is a major red flag. Traffickers often use false information to hide the true nature of their shipment. They may use sell or funds company to make it look legitimate, but are often set up just to facilitate illegal activities. Spotting them can help identify suspicious shipments. Further, traffickers often ship wildlife products in large quantities, but declare them as no-value items. If a shipment seems too heavy for what's listed, it could indicate smuggling. The other iconic signal is the traders declare if high-value items like exotic animals or ivory are declared at a fraction of their worth. That's a red flag for potential illegal activity. The last example I would highlight in here is the inconsistent information in shipment details, like sending used ties to a furniture company can raise suspicion and hints at attempts to disguise the true nature of the goods. Wildlife smugglers often prefer air travel because it's fast and well connected, which helps reduce the chances of animals getting sick or dying during transit, compared to slower methods. Sometimes smugglers hide items or animals on their person, but live animals and valuable animal products are often concealed in passengers' carry-on checked luggage. For example, the image on the left shows a tiger cub found in luggage alongside stuffed toys at Bangkok's airport. Here's an interesting case from August 2015 in Hong Kong, where authorities found 15 kilograms of suspected elephant ivory hidden in a custom-made vest. Here are some signs to watch out for: avoiding eye contact or taking too long to answer your questions, repeating your questions before responding. Third, unusual speech patterns like talking really fast, or just like they abandon or switching backs, or signs of extreme nervousness, also kind of a red flag. Here's another example in March 24. Thailand's Customs Department confiscated an endangered red panda and cotton-tom tamarin monkey, along with 85 other animals hidden in luggage at Bangkok's airport. 6 Indian nationals were arrested for attempting to smuggle these animals to Mumbai, India. In another case, in November 2024, customs authorities in Korea caught a smuggling ring that had allegedly bought nearly 2,000 exotic animals, worth about $1.5 million from Thailand, Indonesia, and other places. Among the confiscated animals were Komodo dragons, which can grow over 3 meters long, star tortoises, and alligator being smuggled into Seoul. Here's one more case. It's an old case in 2020 in Hong Kong. A man smuggled 62 eggs and hatchlings endangered parrot species. The man stayed in South Africa for 2 days and claimed he visited his friends. For the direct flight, it takes nearly 13 hours from Hong Kong to the city. The short duration of his stay is the red flag signal as well. Wildlife trafficking refers to illegal transport of animals and plants, whether it's exporting, re-exporting, transshipping, or importing, or in violation of international laws and the regulations of the country of origin. Every year, over 800 million containers are shipped around the world. And since 90% of the global trade happens by sea, it's estimated that 72 to 90% of illegal wildlife trafficking occurs through maritime transport. Smugglers take advantage of weakness in supply chains to move endangered species, primarily using container shipping, where less than 2% of the cargo is actually checked. When it comes to value, wildlife products transported by container ships are clearly at the top. Other types of seaborne vessels don't seem to carry as much potential for smuggling wildlife. Inside these containers, illegal items like elephant ivory, pangolin scales, and big cat parts are often mixed with legal look-like products or hidden in secret compartments. Typically, smuggling follows certain patterns. Once a new method proves successful, smugglers will exploit it to the maximum. As mentioned before, smuggling follows some pattern. So in 2021, we collaborated with Traffic and worked closely with other partners to launch the Red Flag Compendium to provide guidance to help the sea cargo industry identify wildlife crime. It includes information on suspicious consignments that are commonly used to cover up illegal wildlife. Take an example of an iconic seizure in October 2019. China Customs confiscated 23 tons of pangolin scales smuggled in containers from Nigeria through South Korea. The scales estimated to have come from tens of thousands of pangolins, were mixed with ginger slices in bags, making them harder to detect during the routine checks by officials. Is it really possible to transport ginger from Nigeria to Asia? This is an alert. The shipment would contain illegal products that need the further investigation. Here are some key risk factors to watch for wildlife trafficking. Traffickers often exploit weaknesses in global trade network, so high levels of corruption in certain countries and major ports are the major red flags. Shipments coming from or going to high-risk countries may signal a greater risk of wildlife trafficking, which calls for closer scrutiny. Additionally, if shipments are transshipped through multiple jurisdictions without a clear economic reason, that raises concerns. Traffickers might use indirect routes to hide the true origin or destinations of the cargo. For more indicators, please check out our Red Flag Compendium as well. Here are some indicators to help you spot suspicious shipments. First, watch for any inconsistencies in the shipping documents. For example, if the rates on the invoices doesn't match what's on the bills of lading, that's a red flag. Also, if the descriptions are too vague, it can be hard to tell if the shipment needs a CITES permit. For example, if the trader lists the item as dried seafood, you may wonder what species it actually is. Is it a CITES regulated sea cucumber or seahorse, or something like dry abalone that isn't listed? These are important details to pay attention to, and you may want to ask your clients for more information. In a landlocked countries or regions with loose regulations, wildlife trafficking by road is a big problem. For example, the Greater Mekong area, including Thailand, Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, and Myanmar, is a hotspot for this illegal trade. Its rich biodiversity and porous borders make it particularly vulnerable. Smugglers often use road transports because it offers flexibility and the chance to avoid checkpoints. Rhino horns poaching is a major in Africa countries like Mozambique and South Africa, where organized poaching networks thrive due to high rhino populations. Bookers or facilitators are key players in the trafficking network. They work with traffickers to move rhino horns through the supply chain, coordinating logistics to ensure smooth transfers from poachers to traffickers. Traffickers then sell or smuggle these horns to the international market, managing their storage and preparing them for export. Rhino horns are usually smuggled out of Africa by air or sea, often passing through transit points like Thailand and Cambodia before reaching buyers in countries like China and Vietnam. Corruption plays a crucial role at every level of this illegal trade, involving various actors throughout the supply chain. Now, let's talk about some key proactive measures to help the transport sector fight wildlife trafficking, focusing on due diligence and documentations. It's crucial to really understand your customers, verify their identities and business practices to ensure they meet legal and ethical standards. Due diligence on new employees. You may conduct in-depth background checks on newcomers. Knowing their history can help prevent corruption in your organization. Third, You also can gather detailed information on everyone involved in the shipping process, shippers, agents, and consignees. This helps trace accountability and spots potential risk. Further, develop a caution list. Creating a list of entities or individuals with a history of suspicious activities is one of the effective measures. This can help you avoid problematic partners. Lastly, go digital. Embracing digital documentation in operations can reduce the chances of using false documents, boosting transparency and accuracy. Let's talk about specific measures Hanjin can take to strengthen our role in fighting wildlife trafficking. These actions not only boost our operational integrity, but also aligns with our corporate values. First, establish internal regulations. We can improve cargo inspections, especially for shipments from high-risk areas. Strengthening these checks will help us spot illegal shipments more effectively. Plus, creating a system for immediate internal reporting will improve communication with authorities. Secondly, employee training and awareness. Regular training sections for all employees, new and existing, can raise awareness about wildlife trafficking. Extending this training to our partner companies strengthens our entire value chain. Enormous whistleblowing system. By implementing an unidentified reporting system, employees and partners can report suspicious activities without fear of backlash. This fosters accountability and makes it easier to address issues quickly. Lastly, we can enhance our public image by showcasing our commitment to fighting wildlife trafficking, including our adherence to the Buckingham Palace Declaration on our website and in our ESG reports. This transparency builds trust with stakeholders. In conclusion, by adopting these measures, Hanjin can lead the transport sector in the fight against wildlife trafficking. Some relevant examples in the transport sector. Shipping companies can recognize that they have a shared responsibility to prevent trade in any flora or fauna that may threaten the sustainability of any species. Some container lines set a precedent in corporate leadership of being socially and environmentally responsible companies and publicly committed to a zero-tolerance policy towards illegal wildlife trade. Some companies like Maersk, MSC implement their own ethical initiatives to support wildlife protection, to ban the carriage of animal hunting trophies, or CMA-CGA suspending shipments of timber from Gambia. Airlines like Cathay Pacific also adopts a policy to eliminate IWT in its operations. In 2015, WWF Hong Kong launched a campaign urging major shipping companies to adopt and publicly announce strict policies against carrying shark fins. The efforts paid off. By July 2017, 17 of the world's largest shipping companies, covering about 80% of the global shipping markets by volume, had implemented a no shark fin carriage policy. Now shipping companies like MSC, CMA-CGA, as well as couriers like DHL Express, are encouraged to include these policy guidelines in their standard operating procedures. By adopting policies against carrying wildlife items, transport companies can lower their risk of getting involved in illegal wildlife trade. Joining relevant associations or national, regional, and international initiatives like the United for Wildlife Coalition can provide access to share resources, knowledge, and best practices. This collaboration is key, echoing what Secretary General of the International Maritime Organization, Kit Lim, said at a symposium in 2022. Illegal wildlife trade is a transnational issue, and working together with various stakeholders is essential to tackle it. United for Wildlife, founded by Prince William and the World Foundation in 2013, aims to protect endangered species from illegal wildlife trade, with two task forces, one of the finance and the other one is for transport. They have supported over 280 investigations and helped arrest 120 traffickers, disrupting a major syndicate in East Africa. Moving forward, the task force will focus on eliminating private sector infrastructure used for transporting illegal wildlife products. This includes expanding membership, developing centralized resources like innovation, integrating wildlife trade and best practice into training. Members of the United for Wildlife Transport Task Force have signed the Buckingham Palace Declaration, committing to not knowingly facilitate or tolerate the transport of illegal wildlife products. The declaration centers on 4 key areas. First, commitment to action. Members pledge to actively fight against illegal wildlife trade. Second, information sharing. They focus on enhancing collaboration to share critical information and improve detection efforts. Third, practical measures. Members also implement concrete steps to prevent the transportation of illegal wildlife products. Lastly, they develop new strategies to effectively combat illegal wildlife trade. No doubt that we need to work together to tackle wildlife crime effectively. The International Maritime Organization has adopted new guidelines aimed at preventing wildlife smuggling on ships involved in international shipping. These guidelines were developed with inputs from various groups, including member states, UNDP, Traffic, WWF, and the United for Wildlife Transport Task Force. The guidelines align with important agreements like CITES and the International Convention for Safety of Life at Sea, ensuring that the global shipping industry takes action against illegal wildlife trafficking. This is a significant step forward, providing a solid foundation for the industry to commit to stop the transport of illegal wildlife products. To effectively combat wildlife crime in the transport sector, here are some guidelines for the staff in the aviation industry. First, IATA live animals regulations. These regulations ensure the safe transport of live animals. It's crucial for everyone to follow IATA standards to safeguard animal health and welfare, ensure proper packaging, and provide necessary documentation like health certificates. Second is ACI Wildlife Trafficking Prevention Program. This program helps reduce wildlife trafficking at airports. Key components include conducting risk assessments, training staff to recognize signs of trafficking, and fostering collaboration with customs and law enforcement. Here, I would like to share some more details about how individuals can play a role to prevent IWT. Horticulture in Korea is closely linked to the country's rich cultural heritage, but many plants are listed under CITES regulations. For example, most orchids fall under CITES Appendix 1 or 2. The orchids listed in Appendix 1 are considered highly endangered, which means there's complete ban on commercial trade, except for certain exemptions like artificially propagated plants. On the other hand, the species in Appendix 2 are not as endangered but still need regulations to ensure sustainable trade. These orchids are significant players in the illegal wildlife trade in Korea. Here are some steps you can take to avoid buying illegal wildlife fashion items. Research the seller. Make sure the seller is reliable and open about where their materials come from. Secondly, check the CITES compliance. Verify the products meet CITES regulations. Third, consider alternatives. You may opt for synthetic or plant-based materials instead of exotic leather, or reduce your use of wild-caught skins. You also can encourage transparency in the supply chain to ensure ethical sourcing. By following this step, you can help combat illegal wildlife trade while making responsible fashion choices. In Korea, traditional medicine often use various plants and animals to balance in the body's energies. However, using threatened species in these remedies raises serious concerns about legality, sustainability, and environmental impacts. For example, species like mouse deer, bear bile, and tiger bones are commonly used and are listed under CITES 1 or 2. Their use threatens biodiversity and ecosystem health. To make a difference, we can say no to products from endangered species, and you may support sustainable alternatives. Choose ethically sourced options that protect wildlife. And you also need to research the seller to ensure they are committed to ethical practices. Delicacy. Certain delicacies are often tied to illegal wildlife trade due to traditions and the demand for exotic ingredients. Using threatened species like the European eel, seahorse, and sharkfin raise serious concerns about legality and environmental impacts, as the decline disrupts ecosystems. To help, we can choose sustainable alternatives, offer ethical sourced products that don't harm endangered species, check their practices to ensure they are not involved in illegal trade. And you can support ethical suppliers. Look for those committed to sustainability suppliers. By making informed choices, we can protect our environments and the species that depend on it. We have talked about some red flags to help spot suspicious activities. If you come across any cases of illegal wildlife trade, check out this video for some actions you can take. You can also reach out to the proper authorities like Customs or the CITES Management Authority and give them the details so that they can investigate further.
Does human or drug trafficking shock you? Well, did you know that the fourth largest transnational organized crime is wildlife trafficking? Smugglers will do anything to benefit from this highly lucrative trade. Whether by plane, ship, or parcel, wildlife trafficking has infiltrated everywhere and all countries are concerned. In addition to being alarming for biodiversity, this illegal activity has serious consequences in terms of public health, governance, and security. As actors in logistics and transport, you risk being exposed economically, legally, and in the media. But you can prevent it by educating yourself and adapting your practices. Your commitment can make the difference. At the company level, start by questioning your procedures and tools. The illegal wildlife trade is a very specific issue. Are your risk assessment processes suitable to identify a passenger, cargo, business partner, or customer who may be involved in this activity? In the event of a suspicion or an incident, do you know how to react and who to notify? You who are employees are on the front line facing this trafficking. Some red flag indicators can allow you to detect the presence of wildlife. If this is the case, do not touch it and immediately alert your hierarchy and the competent authorities. Finally, build a network of professionals, authorities, and partners to exchange information, cooperate, and share experiences. Many tools already exist to support you in this commitment. All together and each at our level, let's act to stop this criminal activity.
Here are the QR codes to access our maritime materials. Our latest edition is an e-course created by the International Maritime Organization and the World Maritime University, along with us. This self-paced course includes animated lessons, quizzes, and assignments covering illegal wildlife trade, concealment method, red flags, and what everyone in the maritime supply chain can do to help. Thanks for listening. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out.